have you to mute yourself until after the class or during the break time. Then you can try as much as possible to have your question done. So a quick introduction. What is an asset? Okay. Something valuable that an organization owns, benefits from, or has use of in generating income. Or possibly something that you know that can last you, that has value more than a year period, that is not more or less like a consumables. So it is something that an organization owns, the organization benefits from it, has use of it, and it also generates income for the organization. It is also a resources with economic value owned by the expectation that it will in the future generate one or two income for the organization. And most of the time, when a business needs a loan from a bank, these are part of what the bank consider before they give out a loan to an organization. So they consider the list of the asset that you have and how maintaining those assets are. Then in accounting concept, you have what we call fixed and current assets. Your current assets are more or less like your account receivable, your cash and cash equivalent, your prepaid expenses, and all your security, marketable security. These are all classified under your current assets. But when you're talking about fixed assets, these are assets that retain value more than what? Than a year. And these are expected to keep providing benefits for more than 1 year for that organization. So for example, you have an equipment, your building is a fixed asset, your real estate is a fixed asset. Then let's take, for example, this, if you are running a kind of organization that is into produce, and you have a kind of a van that you're using for delivery, the van in that kind of organization is more or less like a fixed asset for that organization. So your current asset means that the asset will be consumed within 1 year. Just like I earlier mentioned, I said your cash and your cash equivalent, your account receivable, your inventory, your marketable security, these are all classified under your current assets. So what are types of asset management? You have financial asset management, you have infrastructure asset management, you have enterprise asset management, you have physical plant asset management, then you have real estate asset management and HR asset management. And I actually know some people will be wondering why does HR has is an asset management, because every employee to a company is an asset, and that's the reason why human resources also consider what we call cost to the company. So for every employee that the company has, there is a certain amount of money that that employee is costing to that organization. So HR asset management is part of what? Asset management. There are 5 factors that differentiate between an asset manager and a facility manager. 1, the type of asset they manage. Please, can everybody try as much as possible to mute themselves, please? Okay, I can still hear some background noise. So, back again, the type of assets they manage, 1, the purpose of the asset they manage, then the life cycle of the asset also differentiates between an asset manager and a facility manager. Then the very, very key part of it is the organization of the asset. Then the assigned scope of operation. These are factors that differentiate an asset manager from a facility manager. But in the real sense, there are some certain similarity between the two of them. There are some certain area where they share information together, that both asset manager and the facility manager work hand in hand. And the difference is in the scope of application. Asset manager is applied to both core and the support business processes, while FM is focused on support business processes alone. On an operational level, a facility manager and asset manager manage many services in the area of maintenance, operations, safety, logistics, and technical infrastructure. Then there are some other areas where both of them share management concepts like asset utilization rate, asset register, asset replacement value, the cost, total cost of ownership, the critical condition index. They use similar analytical technique, method, procedure, and IT solution. There are some certain periods that the asset manager rely on information provided by the facility manager to make some concrete and some tangible decisions. And there are some times that even the facility manager as well get information from the asset manager to make some tangible decisions in terms of either to revamp an existing building or to actually destroy the building and restart from the onset. So these are all information that the two of them share together in order to make a vital and a very quality decision for the growth of the business. Then earlier on, we mentioned about asset and inventory. I said asset is something that can retain value for more than a year, while your inventory is also like assets are items of value that you want to keep, you want to track closely, because if your asset is missing, this is actually going to affect your accounting statement. And the second thing is that you might be having a ghost asset, whereby you are having an impression that you still have the asset in service, but actually the asset has already been what? Either been stolen or been mismanaged or been whatever. So you need to track your asset closely, and you need to monitor. Even when there is a transfer, you need to get everything that is related to that asset transferred there, and you need to have what, where at the location of your asset at a particular period of time. Such assets are computer, your printer, your phone, your vehicles, your office furniture. These are all classified under assets. But your inventory include items that are used once or last only a short period of time, and can also be required to as was consumable, like your staple pen in the office, your A4 printing paper, your notebook, your marker, your pencils, your eraser. These are consumable. These are what you use. The best you can do for all this kind of thing, your inventory, is for you to take an inventory to know exactly what are your stock level, because you use your stock level to determine when you need to reorder so that you don't run out of stock. So that is the clear difference between your asset and actually your inventory. So what is asset management? An asset management is a systematic process of deploying, operating, maintaining, upgrading, and disposing of assets cost effectively. When you deploy your assets, you put your assets into operation. You started operating the assets. Yeah, and this is area where operation and maintenance comes into place. And as long as time goes on, the assets started what? Getting aged. That is where upgrading comes into place. Then after getting upgraded, and it gets to a point of that it has reached its service disposal level in life, then you talk about how to dispose of the asset with cost effectively. And most of the time, before you dispose of an asset, at times you need to consider what we call depreciation value. So at times, if your book value for the asset is almost zero, so it is easier. You can say, okay, let me dispose of this asset and let me get a new one. And because of the fact that you know that the new one you are getting, you are having what we call warranty, you are having what we call after sales service, you are having a lot of benefit that comes alongside with it, which is not actually part of the old asset that you have in place. So it's a systematic process of deploying, operating, maintaining, upgrading, and disposing of assets cost effectively. The coordinated activity of an organization to realize the value from the asset. So when you don't maintain your asset very well, you wouldn't get the value of that asset. When you don't give your asset the required set of maintenance activity that needed to be put in place, definitely that asset will not perform to its designed purpose, and you are not actually going to get what we call value for money. Then asset life cycle. When you're talking about asset life cycle include your planning period before you buy the asset, when you actually procure the asset, when you put the asset into operation, when you start maintenance and operation and maintenance, then after that you now start thinking about the disposal or the salvage period of the asset. This is the complete asset life cycle. It started from the design and construction, the operation of the asset, the maintenance and repair, the upgrading, then the retirement period of the asset. That is the complete life cycle of an asset. So this brings us down to asset management strategy. Whatsoever asset management strategy you need to put in place, first thing you need to consider is that your asset strategy must be in line with the company vision, mission, and the company objective. It must not be outside the company's mission and vision. So provide a better understanding of how to align the asset portfolio. That is one of the key areas of your asset strategy. Then two, so that it best meets the service delivery need of the organization, both in the present and also in the future to come. Then the third thing is also enable the organization asset management policy to be achieved. And when you want to do your asset management strategy, the first thing you need to consider is that, one, you need to have a clear understanding of the current situation of the asset. Current situation in the sense that, is the asset currently maintainable? Is it operable? Can that asset be sustainable? Then, if it is sustainable, then that asset can be retained or it is operable. So these are all factors you need to consider. Then, if an asset is already almost due for disposal, so that means definitely you need, for what you're actually going to call for in that period of time, is a replacement. So what condition are they in? Then that is one. Do they meet the current and the future need of the organization? So do you as an organization need to replace the asset, or this asset, if you revamp or you upgrade that asset, it can still serve the current and the future purpose of the organization? That is very, very key. Then the third thing is the funding base for operation, maintenance, and renewal appropriately affordable. So you need to consider, because everything is cost-based. Aside your normal operating costs, you need to consider the capital aspect of it. So if that cost base is not affordable in terms of replacement, then you can opt for the option of renewal. Or you can opt for the option of, okay, let's do a little maintenance so that by the time we have one or two budgets at our disposal, we can start thinking about a replacement option. Then when you're using a life cycle approach to set your asset planning decision, develop an asset management policy. One, an integrated and multidisciplinary approach is recommended while developing this policy. Why is it multidisciplinary? Because at times this might require you as a facility manager to involve the financial manager. It can also include you to involve your human resources manager, your QC manager, your safety team. So that is the reason why it becomes a more or less like a multidisciplinary, so that it's not unilateral that a facility manager alone can just sit down that these are my policies. You need to carry other disciplines, other departments along to determine the clear direction for the asset management. To ensure service delivery need form the basis of the asset management. Then a life cycle approach incorporated into asset management. Then sustainability. So what are the benefits of a strategic approach to asset management? One, better allocation of resources. So you don't overuse or underutilize your resources. Then two, improved alignment of assets with service and organization expectation. Then three, better integration of service planning and asset planning. Then four, improved process and accountability for capital and recurrent work. The more effective use and maintenance of assets. These are all the benefits, all the advantage you start to gain when you use a strategic approach to your asset management. So this brings us to asset register. And at times, I think some people call it history card most of the time, but it is very, very key for every asset in terms of asset management. Loss of an asset that has been lost, one, stolen or is no longer usable, two, but still appear on the company asset register. That is more or less like a ghost asset, and also reversed to as ghost asset. And according to asset management resources, nearly every company has a problem with lost assets, estimating to an average of the assets. 10 to 30% of assets are in fact lost assets. Then what are the dangers? What do you stand to lose when you don't track your assets? When you have what you call asset loss, or what you have ghost assets? One, inaccurate balance sheet. You can't have an accurate balance sheet, because this will definitely affect your depreciation. Then loss of productivity, because when you actually need the asset, it is not available for use. Then added expenses, when you are replacing assets that you already have. So you might eventually run into having like 3 or more assets over. Then inaccurate capital budgeting. Then asset misappropriation fraud. So these are all what you cannot rule out when you have what we call asset loss, and you don't maintain what we call asset register, and you don't track your assets. You don't know where your assets are per time. You don't know the current situation of your asset per time. You don't even know who are in charge of those assets. There is no how you won't have inaccurate balance sheet. There is no how you won't have loss of productivity. And there is no how you won't have asset added expenses, because you might be having multiple assets doing one single task. Then inaccurate CapEx budgeting and misappropriation of fraud. These are what you cannot rule out when you don't track your assets properly. Then that brings us to what we call asset register. What is an asset register? A record that clearly identifies all the assets that a business has. Then 2, it also allows a business owner to quickly retrieve information on the asset. So you can easily know where your asset is, what are the warranty status on that asset, when was the asset commissioned, where exactly is the location of the asset, who is the maker of that asset, what are the critical parts that we need to stock in terms of that asset, if it is a plant and equipment. Then it also shows the value of assets, date of acquisition, and other details computed for depreciation and what tax purposes. It also allows you to keep a track of assets and provide a fair estimate of their worth. So per time, you can know the condition of your assets. You can forecast if this asset will actually last you for a certain period of years, or maybe by so number of years, you need to start planning for what we call a replacement, or possibly you need to start planning for what we call upgrading. So these are all what you stand to gain when you have a good asset register in place. And at times, as a facility manager, when you are in a business where this is not in place, the first assignment you should do as a facility manager is how to get this in place, because it's actually going to really assist and it's going to help you. So why does an organization need an asset register? 1, to process the purchase of assets in accordance with the organization authorization and record keeping procedure. So with your asset register, you can know when the asset was being procured, when it was being commissioned, how long the asset has been in use, as the asset actually served its designed year or its expected year of service. If that is in place, then you can now consider, okay, what if there is a renew, or there is a kind of a revamp, or there is a kind of a maintenance upgrade carried out on that particular asset, if it will still serve for a certain period of time. Then 2, an organization needs an asset register to maintain an adequate accounting record of asset cost, description, and where they are kept in the organization. That is the location of that particular asset. Also, an asset register helps an organization to maintain accurate record for what? Depreciation, because on a monthly basis, there's a certain amount of money that you depreciate on a particular asset. It is only when your depreciation value gets to 0 that you can say, okay, that asset is maintaining what we call zero book value. Most of the time, you can even, based on salvage period, you can even sell that asset off and still use it to recoup money back into the organization. It also provides management with information to help plan for future asset investment. So management can use this information to determine when they needed to, like in the nearest future, either to do a replacement or to do an upgrading on that particular asset. Then record the retirement or disposal of an asset. With that asset register, you can record and the retirement and disposal of your asset. So type of physical asset that need to be recorded include your office equipment, your motor vehicle, your furniture, your computer, your communication system, your equipment. Then you talking about your transportation system, your facility, like your lift, your electrical system, like your LV panel, your transformer. These are all assets that you need to track, that you need to monitor. And these are all classified under physical assets. So what is the purpose of an asset register? Why do we need an asset register as a facility manager? To keep the record of the company assets, their respective values and attributes. Then 2, to simplify record keeping. Then 3, register become a reference for the business. So you can refer to your register at any time to make some certain tangible business decision. Then can also be used for depreciation purposes. Then verify the existence of all assets. Then to keep a master list of what is held and where they're being held and their usage per time. So when you want to create an asset register, how do you go by it? 1, you decide the purpose of the asset register. Then 2, you decide on the method of organizing your asset register. Could it be in terms of hierarchy? Could it be in terms of the operation they perform? Could it be in terms of the financial aspect? Could it be in terms of the period they are being bought? Or could you be in terms of, okay, the location where they are? It could be state-wise, it could be location-wise, it could be region-wise. So you decide on method of organizing them. Then identify asset by performing a physical audit. Physical audit means see your assets physically or walk around them. When you do that, you now create an accounting record for each of the assets. Conduct periodic audit to verify the accuracy of the asset register. So your periodic audit could be a quarterly one, it could be a biannual, it could be an annual one, but when you conduct your audit, that gives you opportunity to know the current condition of the asset. Then you are able to also confirm that that particular asset is no longer a ghost asset, that the asset is still what? Physically available and it is still what? In use. So your asset register will definitely include the name of the asset, the capacity of the asset. Let's take a generator, for example. The asset name could be a Perkins generator. The capacity could be a 200 kVA, or possibly let's take a transformer. It could be an ABB transformer. The capacity could be a 250 kVA transformer. It could be, then you talk about the model number, the serial number, which is going to be provided by the manufacturer. Then the asset location. Is the asset location located in Yaba? Is it located in Ikoyi? Is it located in Lagos? Is it in Anambra? Or which other part of the country is being located? What is the condition of the asset? These are all what you stand to have inside your asset register. The purchase price, the date of purchase, the asset manufacturer, asset description, insurance coverage in case there is. Then what are the warranty information? What are those items on that particular asset that is being covered under warranty, which are major part of the asset? The date asset is placed in service, which is the commissioning date. What is the estimated life of that asset? What is the salvage value? Then you can now assign asset identification number. These are all what your asset register should entail, and these are the information that you need to make certain critical business or decision. Asset tag integration. Tagging your assets helps you to itemize your asset one by one. Even when you have 10 similar assets together, with tagging, it is easier for you to know which one is 1, which one is 2, which one is occupying the 9th position, and which one is occupying the 10th position. That is the purpose of your assets. So your asset tagging includes your maintenance. You can finance related, it's improve business processes, it's customer engagement, it's reduce labor costs, reduce inventory costs, and also maintenance costs. So your asset tagging will include your big data machine, your cost performance association, your labor improvement, your supply allocation, old tagging system static data. Newer systems are more dynamic and what system. So your tagging has improved to the extent that you can even use your QR scan machine. You can use your RFID machine to do your audit. So you might, at the same time as you are doing the QR scanning and you are doing maybe the RFI tagging, the information is being generated into your central system. So that is different from when you do physical and you are now going back to the office to start inputting all those information that you have already generated physically into your system. And when you don't have the opportunity of using all the sophisticated or newly improved asset tagging machines, you can still use the manual way. Then when you get back to the office, what you do is that open an Excel spreadsheet, get all your details, the headings and every other thing, and start putting the name of the asset and put all the headings under them. So you have first asset tagging, there is alphanumeric tagging, there is barcode tagging, there is RFID, and there is QR code. Each and every one of them has their advantage and what you start to gain from each of them. So your cost availability, or let me say budget availability, will determine which of these one you can pick per time. So when you don't have the availability of money to spearhead the QR code, I think you can still go for the alphanumeric tag or possibly a barcode tag. But in a situation whereby you have almost branches of anywhere, like let's take First Bank for an example. First Bank has branches in everywhere in the whole of the country. So if they are going for RFID tag or they are going for QR code tagging, they have the opportunity, they have the money, and then their business is so bogus to the extent that they might not be using alphanumeric because that might be time consuming and that might be wasting most of their money in terms of doing asset tagging. So this is an example of asset tagging. So storage and retrieval method. These are what you start to gain when you use most of the sophisticated one. Organizations can face huge risk when assets are operated without asset information. In many organizations, keeping accurate details of assets is an ongoing challenge. This is also compounded by assets often being situated at different geopolitical locations. Poor recording of changes. One asset is moved from our office in Lagos down to Abuja. But instead for that asset to go alongside with the asset register, so that when the asset gets to Abuja, the asset register continue to be in use. But when there is a poor recording of changes, asset can move out of Lagos, get into Abuja without anybody knowing, without even the asset register going out with it. Out of date asset register. Then a poor definition of what constitutes a physical asset. So there are sometimes that could be a mix-up. So you can, even at times, there are some situations whereby if you don't do a proper definition of your asset, you can be putting inventory as part of it. So how do I do that? So the process you take when you are doing your asset tagging: 1, you identify the business protocol. Then 2, select tagging system. Is it QR that you want to use? Is it RFID that you want to use? Then inventory assets, the asset name. Then you can now assign each asset with a unique string. Example, you can use your business unit, you can use country, you can use city. For assets that are in Lagos, you can start them with LA. For assets that are in Ogun State, you can start them with OG. The one that is in Jigawa, you can start it with JG. So you can use cities. Then in terms of building, you can start saying, okay, block 1, block 2, block 3, flat 1, flat 2, flat 3. Then in terms of floor, you can say first floor, second floor, first floor room 1, second floor room 2. These are all unique strings that you can give to your assets. So you can say, okay, all assets in floor 1, they are going to bear F and 1. F1 generator, F1 computer, F1 table, F1. So going through that, you know that everything you see on F1 is in room 1 on floor 1. These are all the processes you can employ when you are doing your asset tagging. Then standardization. Why is it very important? 1, because of data integration. Then 2, skill portability. So these are reason why your standardization is very, very key when you are doing your asset tagging. So asset documentation, you have operation and maintenance, you have warranty terms, you have as-built drawing, then you have master asset list, you have asset tagging and repair history. Then at times, I always try to explain to people that there is a difference between engineering drawing and as-built drawing. You get the engineering drawing before the commencement of the project, while as-built drawing comes after the completion of the project. So you use your as-built drawing during your operation and maintenance purpose, so that when in a situation whereby you need to do a kind of a mini maintenance or minor maintenance or major maintenance on your plumbing line, your as-built drawing will tell you where the plumbing lines are actually being passed through, where the electrical points are actually passed through. These are the purpose of your assets, your as-built drawing. Then your master asset list tells you, it gives you the complete detail of all the assets that the organization has. Then the asset tagging, all the assets are being tagged with a unique code, with a unique string. So there's no how two assets can have the same unique string and unique code. Then you have repair history. With your repair history, you can determine when the asset is actually due for a replacement or for a revamp. That is the area where your documentation comes in terms of asset management. Then what is disposal plan? Because for every asset you commission, you operate, you maintain, it will certainly get to a point that you need to dispose of that particular asset. So what are disposal plan? A plan that documents the activities and costs associated with disposal of an asset. Let's take a building for an example. You are disposing of a building, a 10-story building for that matter, you want to dispose it of. You don't just go there and bring up a caterpillar one day and bring the whole entire building down. You need to have what we call a disposal plan. What are the required approval that you need? Possibly maybe you need a local government approval, you need state government approval, you need safety commission approval. What are the costs involved? What are the manpower involved? These are what you need to put in place. And this is where asset disposal plan comes into place. So generally part of a comprehensive asset management plan. Then any activity associated with the disposal of the commission of an asset, such as was sales of the asset, demolition of the asset, relocation of the asset. So at times, demolition of your assets can require you to use an heavy equipment. What is the cost of that heavy equipment? Does that require you to get a crane? So what will be the cost of that crane? These are what you need to plan ahead in terms of asset disposal. So your asset disposal plan should include forecasting of timing for the future asset disposal. 1, cash flow forecast. Identify income and expenditure associated with what? Asset disposal. So if you are disposing of an asset, what are the costs you are going to spend? Then when you want to dispose of a vehicle, you are what? Actually getting costs back. You are getting an income. You are recouping money back into the what? Into the company. That is different from when you are demolishing a building. If you are selling a tractor or a plant and equipment, you are recouping money back into the company. That is where you can do your cash flow forecast, identifying what is the income coming into the company, or what are the expenditure, what are the outflow they are going to expend in terms of demolishing that asset. Time disposal to ensure that replacement of assets is replacement asset is operational. So in a situation whereby you are changing from a software you're using before to a new software, you need to consider that operation are not being tampered with during the upgrade process, during the replacement process. Then 2, ready to absorb the workload of the decommissioning assets. So you are going out of one software and you are coming into a new software. The new software you are coming in should be able to withstand the current software, the current software that you are, the workload that you have on ground. And at the same time, it should still give some room for possibly maybe future additionals. Then the third thing is that so that the users are not inconveniently needed. So asset disposal plan is an important component of a sound asset management plan. Saying disposal costs can be as can be as 5% of the full life cycle cost of an asset. So you need your asset disposal plan. It's very, 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 very key. So when you are replacing an asset, what is the replacement cost or what is the replacement value? The amount to pay to replace an asset at the present time according to its what? Current what? Then 2, understanding asset replacement cost. As certain assets approaching the end of their useful life, expenditure to replace the asset need to be what? Anticipated. Explore insurance coverage for the asset. So computer-based asset monitoring. Assets are critical components of any business or organization, but tracking those assets can be one of the most time-consuming tasks of the entire workday. Most especially when you are using physical asset auditing. But computer-based asset monitoring are now helping in terms of reducing labor costs and also save you in terms of time. So part of what you can use is barcode or asset tracking tools. This can streamline your work. It can help to make employee work more efficiently and productively. Then asset tracking tool, it also enables organizations to track asset maintenance and locations. It saves valuable time and eliminating the need for spreadsheets. But in case you cannot afford the computer-based asset monitoring, you can still go for the spreadsheet type of a thing. It doesn't mean that rule out the use of spreadsheets. Your capital availability will determine if you can actually go for computer-based or if you still have to stick to your spreadsheet. It also ensures proper inventory management. Asset tracking and system. Asset tracking system help audit tasks and conduct asset tracking in real time. This will enable more efficient in planning. It also enables scheduling for necessary maintenance or service for equipment at appropriate time. So when you are setting up an asset tracking system, you need to consider the following. How many assets do you need to track? What type of assets you are actually tracking? Then where are those assets located? These are questions you need to ask. This will actually guide and help you to know the kind of asset tracking system in tracking your assets. How many locations do you have?
400.
Are the assets already labeled? Will you use barcode or RFID tags? Do you need real-time updates or can batch collection be used? What type of reporting will you need from the system? So the actual results you want to report or output that you want the computer system to provide, that you want the software to actually provide for you, will determine the kind of software you are going to choose, because there are several numbers of software that can do your assets tracking in terms of software related for you. But the information you actually want to pull out, your output from that software, the required data you want to collect from that software is what will determine the types of software you are actually going to pick. And when you want to choose among software, you can do what we call benchmarking, you can do networking, you can ask for other facility managers or other asset managers who have one way or the other used that kind of software before. Then you also need to consider the software provider. Are they going to give you what we call after-sales service? Is there training included in that software? Are they going to give you all the end users the required training, or is there going to be after sales continuous training? So these are what you need to consider. These are what you need to put in place before you vouch for before you venture into getting any of the software that you want to use for your asset tracking. So these are all examples of asset tracking you can use. So you have asset tracking software, then you have CAFM, you have computer aided facility management system. So you have space and asset management system, real estate and property management system, you have facility asset management system, you have maintenance operation, building management. So there are several numbers of software under each of these categories that you can choose, that you can use. But the output, the result, the data, and the information you actually want to collate will determine which of them you can use. Then the experiences from other facility managers. Then The benchmarking that you have done will determine which one you are going to use. And at the same time, cost will also come to play a vital role, because the cost is not available. There's nothing you can do. Then presenting this kind of software to management, you need to gain what we call management buy-in. You need to prove to management the reason why you need to use that software. So when you are implementing a facility management system, before the implementation, what do you need to consider? You need to consider the asset their business need. Then decide on the system implementation objective. Identify system requirements. What will be done with the information from the system? What are you going to use the information you collated from that system for? What information are they going to provide for you? Proceed with the purchase. Then finally, you can now implement the system. These are all the pre-implementation consideration before you even need to go for the what? Then during implementation plan execution, issue identification, risk management, change management, transition period, implementation review. When you issue identification, then you consider what are the risks that is going to be involved. Is there going to be operation hour loss? Is there going to be unavailability of internet facility during that period in time? Do we need to actually shut down some part of the operation? Do we actually need to shut down some part of the what facility? These are all the risks you need to consider, and how do you mitigate against those risks? Then the change management during the change period. What are going to be involved? What are the manpower? Who are the change agents? Who are going to spearhead the change mantra? Then how many period of time will that changes take? That is the transition period. We're moving from the old analog to the what? Digital. How many period will it take? 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months. Within that period in time, what are we planning to put in place to meet to at least sort as a cost cushion, so that we don't actually completely run out, so that we don't completely shut down, so that we don't say, okay, sorry, people should not work. Is it that during that transition period, people will actually work from home? If people are going to work from home, are we providing them internet facility from home, so that while upgrading is going on in the office, we still have people working effectively from home? Then after you have implemented, you need to conduct what we call review. Review in the sense that what you have actually implemented, are people getting accustomed to it? Are they facing difficulty in getting used to it? In getting used to it? Is the new system that we put in place creating a kind of delay in operation? Is it slowing down our operation? Are people actually catching up? These are the kind of review you need to do. And when you are implementing this kind of review, you could take feedback from end users. You could take feedback from the stakeholders, the people that are actually using this software or the system. Then after you have implemented, post-implementation, what do you need to do? So this involves continuous process monitoring and tweaking, continuous staffing, training and retraining, quality assurance conducted on the input, continuous promoting the system value to staff, because you need to allow the staff to know how tangible and how effective and what problem does this system actually want to solve for the organization. So the bottom line here is that the facility management system are often just about aren't just about the system. Every staff should be made to see the value of the system, and hence an organization should put everything in place to ensure the system is used effectively. That is very, very key. So what are the benefits of CMMS? CMMS is computerized maintenance management system. Computerized maintenance management system is more or less like a sub of CAFM. So it's more or less like a child under CFM, because it only takes an aspect of what? Maintenance in terms of facility management. But your computer-aided facility management take care of the entire facility. and has maintenance and operation embedded under it. So the maintenance and operation that is embedded under it, that is where CMMS comes into place. So your SMMS assists you to effectively plan and schedule preventive maintenance, because it triggers, it sends the necessary information to the actual person that is going to work. It tells you when you need to carry out a planned preventive maintenance on a particular equipment. It helps you to manage work order effectively. So you're able to open your work order, work on the work order, and close the work order immediately. And when you close the work order, it takes that off and leave the uncompleted one open. So it also helps you to manage your spare part, because you have your spare part inventory. It eliminates paperwork because everything is what computerized. It also enhances productivity because you know ahead before an equipment actually breaks down. So with your CMMS, you can perform what we call condition-based maintenance. So it reduces downtime and repair costs. And when repair cost is reduced, you start to gain what we call safety. And you start to gain what we call production, increase in production. And when you have increase in production, you are going to have increase in what? Profitability. It also keeps a finger on the pulse of your organization. Ensure compliance with regulatory what? Standard. It increases productivity. When you do condition-based maintenance and you give preventive maintenance to equipment when it's required, you start to gain what we call longer equipment lifetime. Then your breakdown reduce. Your mean time between failure is drastically what? It's drastically what? Elongated. So the mean time between failure, you have a standard and a greater advantage. So you have less what? Less downtime. And when you have less downtime, your productivity will definitely what? Increase. When you are implementing your computerized maintenance system, you get what we call get buy-in and commitment from the management. That is necessary. Then define the requirements, including the goal, the expectation, the hardware, and the timeline. Gather a list of all assets to be entered into the CMMS. Document all planned preventive maintenance procedure. Select CMMS software that suits your need. Import any data you have from existing system using spreadsheet. Then add your user and user group to the CMMS. Add your asset to the CMMS. Add schedule maintenance and set triggers. Go live. Continue improvement, review, renew, refine, and customize. When you implement your CMMS, you review. Is that system actually resolving your problem? Is it actually perform the designed purpose? Is it also giving you the required information that you actually vouch for, that you actually went for? Then you need to renew, you need to refine, and you need to customize. And these are going to be the decision you are going to take from feedback from the end users. So during the implementation phase of your CMMS, you plan projection planning, data migration, you're migrating from the old system to the new system. You do core configuration, you do process design, then you do what we call practical testing. Then after practical testing, you manage the results. These are the steps you take when you are implementing your computer maintenance management system. What are the challenges you face when you implement your CMMS? One, features and function, system flexibility, interface capability, then system security, then data security. These are all likely challenges that you might come across when you are implementing your CMMS. So what are the difference between your computer-aided facility management system and other facility management system? One, not to confuse a computerized maintenance management system with a computer-aided facility management system. Consider an office. For an example, take an office in the workplace, ensuring that the office is properly inspected, maintained, repaired. This is completely a computerized maintenance management system activity, because this look after work is properly inspected, work is properly maintained, and repair is properly being carried out. This is the function and the objective of a CMMS. But in terms of computer-aided facility management, knowledge about the staff and the office content, including your assets, including movement of the asset from one office to the other, your electrical system, your transportation system, your telecommunication system, your roofing system. This is all related to computer-aided facility management activity. So that is a clear difference between your facility, your computerized management and maintenance management system, and your computerized computer-aided facility management system. So the two of them are not the same thing. So one is more or less like the father, while the other one is more like the son. So that brings us to the end of the slide. So we want our question as much as possible. So you do that by raising up your hand, then I will unmute, I'll ask you to unmute yourself, then you go ahead with your question, then we address the question. Then at the end of the slide, there is an assessment that you need to do. You can get in touch with Barakat in terms of how to do the way you're going to do the assessment, how you're going to do the submission, and the means of submitting the assessment. But the question that we're going to deal with shouldn't be part of the assessment, please. Let's put that in mind. So please, you can come up with our questions now. Please signify by raising up your hand, please. You can signify by raising up your hand, then you unmute yourself, you ask your question, I'll answer, then another person asks our questions. Do you have any hands up, man? I think a lot of them join us along the line. Okay. Mr. Ajibola, please go ahead with your question. Can you please unmute yourself?
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Ajibola.
Yeah. Good evening, the presenter. Good evening, everyone in the class. Thank you for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ajibola.
Yeah, I must really say that you have really increased our knowledge gap as far as asset management is concerned. But
that's our job in Max-Migold.
No, okay. Thank you for that. My question is, what's the major difference or the major function of CAFM, that's CAFM? And the second one is, where and how can we get the CAFM software?
Okay.
The third one is, which one would you really advise for a beginner or a novice to learn out of CAFM and CMMS?
Okay.
Yeah.
Your CAFM has what we call space management, real estate management, property management, operation and maintenance. These are all under computer-aided facility management. Then, where you can get this software, you can liaise with Mr. Paul. It can be of help in that area. Okay. Okay. So I think there's going to be an upcoming demonstration on CMM and CAFM for upcoming classes. So I think you should bear that in mind. So make yourself available during that period. Then what you actually want to achieve, the report you want to generate, the output you want to achieve, and what are the data you are actually want to collate will determine which of the software you are going to choose. Then two, in the course of the training, in the course of the class, I said your networking, that is linking up with other facility managers who has used that kind of software before, will help you to determine which of those software you can go for. There are a lot of software outside. It's not that all of them are not good, but you should choose the one that, one, you can have the financial capability to procure. Then two, the one that when the license is due, you have the financial capability to also pay for the license. It's not the kind of system that you use and run 1 year, that the second year you won't be able to pay for the system license. Then three, the software provider, are they willing to give you what we call after-sales service? Are they willing to give you after-sales support? Are they ready to train your end users? People are actually concerned are going to be using the CAFM or CMMS. So these are all factors you need to consider before you go for any of the software. So Mr. Ajibola, I hope I've provided answer to most of your questions.
Yes, sir. You've done justice to the question. Thank you, sir.
No, if you still have any other question, you can still come up by raising up your hand. So I think I'll pick Mr. Moses Adeni now. So after that, Mr. Femi. So Mr. Moses, please, your question, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for the lecture. Okay, the question I want to ask is, I want you to further distinguish between asset and inventory, because the general knowledge of inventory is that inventory is taking into record of some item or maybe asset. You are taking inventory of an asset. That's the general, that's what I think the general knowledge of inventory is all about. But from this lecture, we can see that asset and inventory are two different things. You know, like you've taught now that inventory has to do with short-time consumables or so, and then asset is all about physical equipment like computer and so on. Please, can you quickly give a quick distinction between the two? Thank you very much.
Okay. You know, I think there are some certain company that uses the word inventory for assets. But in terms of facility management, asset is anything that can retain value for more than a period of 1 year. Then two, it is something that can economically generate money either more than 1 year or in the near future for the company. That is one. But in terms of inventory, it is only your asset that you can start considering what we call depreciation. You can't do depreciation for inventory because inventory are having value within a short period of time, like 1 month, 2 months, whatever. So when you use the word inventory, you can still take an inventory of your assets. That means you are taking the list of the asset that you have. Then you can still take an inventory of your consumables. So that's where the word inventory doesn't mean that we're saying you can't call an asset an inventory. You can take an inventory of your assets. That means you are making a list of all the assets you have. And at the same time, you can take an inventory of your consumables. That means you are taking the stock. You are taking stock of all the consumables that you have. Why do you do inventory of your assets? Because you want to know the number of assets you have as an organization. And you want to start monitoring those assets. You want to know their location. You want to know how you can track them. You want to ensure that you don't have a ghost asset. Then, when you take an inventory of your consumables, you don't want to run out of stock. As a facility manager, your diesel is a consumable. You take an inventory of it because you don't want to run out. Your water, your gas, if you are running a gas plant, they are all consumables. You take their inventory because you don't want to run out. And don't also forget that part of the reason why you take an inventory is that you don't want theft. You don't want theft. Likewise, an asset, when you take an inventory of an asset, you don't want theft. So you want to know what is happening to either your consumable or your asset per time. That's why you take a constant inventory of what you have. So, Mr. Moses, I hope that answers your question, sir.
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay, sir.
I thought there's a different meaning to that.
Okay,
Yeah,
sir.
I'm clear. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Femi.
Thank you very much, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. I can't hear myself. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you clearly, sir.
Okay.
But can you hear me? That's the most important thing.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, that's good.
Basically, I have a director that is facility management inclined. Let me use that word.
Okay.
So, and he happens to be the owner of the property. So as regards what you discussed today, I see reasons why I need to know more about the asset on ground. I feel
Sure.
I'm just concerned about maintaining it. Do you get?
Okay.
But from this whole explanation today, from this whole class, I see reasons to the fact that I really need to know so many things to the root. And it's not like I don't want to. He has really been acting like there's a limit to what you need to know. So I want to ask of your advice. Should I leave it that way, continue working that way, or I really need to know about the whole asset? Do you get now? Is it funny?
Mr. Femi, I get your point. But one thing I want you to realize that your facility manager doesn't actually stop you from learning, right or wrong?
Very well, sir.
Okay. And it doesn't actually, no matter how you put it, I don't want to go to some area. But the bottom line is that if you actually do what is excellently right, I'm so sure your facility manager has shaped that.
My director, I mean.
Yes. When you do the right thing, does he appreciate it or not?
It does. As a matter of fact, it feels
that's exactly the point I want to pick. So if he actually appreciates the good thing you're doing as a facility manager, I will ask you to please continue to do the good thing. Then you can still see this is the reason why training like these are very, very key. And they are very, very essential because it opens our eyes to a lot of things that we thought we knew, but we didn't know.
Yeah.
You understand? Then at times, when there is a difference between you before the training and you after the training now. Because one way or the other, you pick up something from the training.
Yes, sir.
So there's definitely going to be a clear difference in terms of your performance in terms as a facility manager compared to somebody who has not gone for this kind of training before.
Yes, sir.
So now, what I will expect you to do now, for you to showcase what you are actually gained from Max-Migold is that when you get back to your facility, start what we call that asset register, even if it is not available before.
I should create one.
Yes, you should. You should, yeah. Because it will help you a lot.
You will also appreciate that.
In terms of maintenance, repair and maintenance, let me take your pumping machine that you use for your water in one of your facilities, for example.
Yes, sir.
If you walk up to your facility director that is, sir, I need to replace this pumping machine. I know the first thing your facility director will ask you is that, why do we have to replace this? But if you have your asset register with you, it is easier to convince your facility director that, sir, this is the so amount of money we've been spending on this pumping machine. It's no longer viable. It's no longer cost effective for us to keep spending money. Let's get
a new one. Okay.
He will economically reason alongside with you because you are speaking as a professional. You are not just making a decision as a layman. You won't just tell him that, okay, sorry, we need to replace because my plumber said we should replace it. You understand? You won't just say, okay, sorry, the lift engineer said we should replace the lift. No, because you have the detail of all the maintenance activity that have been going on that particular lift. So you can make a vital decision. Okay, from there you can decide, okay, can we repair? Can we revamp? Can we renew? Or we need to replace. But at the same time, when you are making a decision to replace, you need to consider that cost is very, very key. Do you have the availability of that capital at that period in time? If that capital is not available, maintenance can still save you for a short period of time when the capital will be available. Why not? You can go for maintenance. So, Mr. Samuel, I'm expecting you, starting from tomorrow when you get back to work, start what we call asset register in your office. and let your facility director know the reason why you are doing that and what are the advantages. And I'm so sure it won't stop you from doing it.
No, I'm sure.
Thank you
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Jude.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Akinola Emmanuel. Thank you for the lecture that you're giving us. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly now.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Akinola.
Thank you very much. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you for the lecture. Actually, the area I want more, if you can give us more, expand more on that, is on the CMMS challenges.
Okay.
I want to know where these challenges come from and how they can affect the work, the productivity, or what they are being used for. Because I'm seeing a whole lot of features, functions, system flexibility, interface, system security, data security, and all of that. So how are these challenges going to affect an operation or a facility in a place where they are being deployed? How is it going to affect the work that is there?
Okay. When you are talking about challenges, when you talk about features and functions, you know, your CMMS, in terms of computer, whatever, most of the information you'll be going to be dealing with are in terms of either symbols, in terms of, because you can see an electric motor is not going to appear in the physical picture of an electric motor. It is going to be identifying your CMMS with a symbol. So these are all features and functions. So how it is easily going to be easier for end user to easily itemize that, okay, when I see this, I know this is talking about pumping machine. When I see this, I know this is talking about transformer. When I see this feature, I know this is talking about what? It's talking about, let's say it's talking about an asset or possibly about the furniture. When I see this logo, I know it's talking about. So these are all the features and the functions. These are one of the, everybody needs to get used to those features and functions so that you don't pick another symbol for something else. Then two, the system must be flexible enough. Whatsoever system you are put in play, it must be flexible. It shouldn't be a rigid system. Flexibility means it must be users friendly. It shouldn't be a one-way traffic that the input cannot be what, re-amended or whatever. Then interface capability. The one you have already in ground and the one that is coming in, it must be able to, it must be compatible. It's just like a plug and play. So, and even if that is going to require you to try to like get one of interface module, whatever, but bottom line is that it must be what? Interface capability. Then those information in your CMMS are very, very vital because you need those information to make decisions. And this is a software. You need to consider what we call system security. Apart from cyber, apart from software security issue, then who among your end users to have access to some certain area in that software? Because when it's come to inputting, because you have to input all your details of your asset and every other thing, there must be certain set of people who should have access to that kind of interface on that software. Then at the end users, their own is to pick information. Okay, after completion of what they put those information completed. Then what are the items that they use? They put those in. Then the system will automatically generated the information that you require for you. But that doesn't mean the people that are putting information up, they have completed one or two tasks, should have access to where you do your asset inputting into that CMMS. That's where system security comes into play. then your data must be secured, because once you lose that data, you can't make vital information. You can't make vital decision. That means all what you have put in place is gone. It's just more or less like your accounting software as well. If you lose those data, you know how painful it could be. So you need to prevent your system security. You need to prevent your data security. So, Mr. Jude.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Akinola.
You're much welcome.
I appreciate this. At least it has opened my eyes also to, because as you explained, I was really thinking about deploying how we can deploy this into an organization that already have an established no, we don't even have any of such. So
okay.
It's going to be a project for me and my team
okay.
to now begin to see how we can first of all get management buy-in so that we can begin to deploy this, because we have a large asset base. And then secondly, to begin to think of how we can deploy this and bring it into our network system, so that you know, because there's a lot of firewalls. So all of this is, so thank you for this. Yeah, I appreciate, this.
Part of what you also needed to do before you can get a better management buy-in is that you need to ensure you are making an effective use of the current system that you have on ground. If you're actually not making an effective use of the current one you have on ground, management will tell you that what you're actually having currently, you guys are not even actually using it. So why do you need for another one?
But in this case, if it is non-existent, because what we have, it's not that it's non-existent, but what we have is kind of a generalized asset management system, which deals with some other things. But when it comes to facilities, we don't have that. So thank God we just have one of our new, if I will use that word, that joined us, who has done this course before, and he has a very good knowledge of this. So he's the one that is opening our eyes to that we need to have this. So hearing this also, showing me that we need to, quickly begin to deploy this. It's really becoming very key for us now. So it is non-existent as we speak. So we are going to have to start looking into this, since there are a lot of softwares out there that do this, is to now be able to sift through the softwares and determine which one would best serve our purpose and the company, looking at all of this, the benefits and the challenges, and then see how we can integrate them into our system.
Okay. Then more also, you can also, I think there is a class coming up on this CMMS and say whatever in the upcoming classes. So try to make yourself available on that day. And furthermore, you can also see Mr. Paul in terms of any of those software as well.
It's okay. It's all right.
You can also see Mr. Paul. So it'll be of help. I can show you.
It's okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akinola.
You're much welcome, sir. Yeah. Oh, really? My name is Akinola Emmanuel. Mr. Alaoye.
Good evening, Mr. Akinola. Good evening, class. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, ma. Go ahead, ma.
Okay. My question, for a facility that has a service apartment, and the assets are already deployed, like we call it villas or flats, like the fridges and all that. Like, what approach would you advise? Like, if I want to update or like to start a new asset register? There are people living in the villas and the houses already. The assets have been deployed.
Okay. The first question I want to ask is that in each of those flats, the assets that are inside there, are they your direct assets, or it belongs to the tenant?
Most of the equipment are for my company. They also have theirs. Some of them come with theirs. Because like here you can have a fully furnished and equipped apartment, partially furnished and equipped, and
then the one that belongs to your company, Are the tenants the one that are maintaining them, or you are still responsible for the operation and maintenance of those ones?
We are still responsible for the operation.
So definitely those ones are the one that is going to form your assets register, because that is what your company actually owns in that apartment. If it is just only fridge or just only a freezer in each of the block of flats that belongs to your company, that is what you are going to maintain asset register for.
Okay, yeah, I understand. What I mean is, like, there are people living there already, just to know the approach, because some of them can be very funny, like
Okay, you're thinking about they wouldn't allow you to come into their flat?
They will, just like, what method would you advise? How to go about it?
The best way you can go about it is to go through your management. They can write an official letter to each of the tenants, telling them they need to get a list of all the assets that belong to the company in each of those apartments. And I think there is no any tenant that will object to you doing that. So if you can go through that way, so anytime you want to go to each of those flats, because I know a lot of tenants who don't want you to intrude to their privacy. So anytime you want to go into that apartment, they have already been pre-informed that your staff will be coming around to take a list of all those assets that only belong to your company alone. So that helps you a lot than just without any prior notification, without whatever, you just bung into the apartment and say you want to take a list. Nobody will allow you to do that.
No, we don't do that. We usually send notices ahead.
So that is that you can send an official letter to them, tell them the period is going to take, and tell them you can even do the calendar and the time schedule timetable on when you're going to be visiting each of those apartments. So some of them can reply you that, okay, why can't you come and do my own in the morning before I go to the office? Or can you come back in the afternoon? So you make it flexible enough, because you have to consider the fact that they also have to go to work. Then some of them that have their steward at home, they can ask you to come during the day.
Okay.
And at the same time, for you to get their best buy-in, you need to let them know the purpose and the reason why you are carrying out that activities. And part of what you can tell them is that you want to know when those equipment will actually be due for a new replacement. So everybody will be willing to listen to you that, okay, this one has served a purpose, this one has served a purpose. So
okay, thank you, Mr. Akinola.
You're welcome, man. Mr. Jude, you still have another question?
No, sorry, I'm going to lower my hand. I'm sorry.
Okay. Still more question, please. Is there anybody still raising this hand? Mr. Innocent, please go ahead. Can you hear me, Mr. Innocent? Hello?
Okay, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly now.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, class. All right, please, Innocent by name, I would like you to kind of expatiate on the CAFM market system segment. Just to I said I would like you to throw in more light on the CAFM market segments.
Okay. The CAFM market segment is computer aided. Let me tell you what CFM is. It's computer aided facility management system. So in that pool of market, you have a lot of software that you can use, both for asset management, both for space management. So they are all available. So you are the one that will now choose which one particular one do you want. And whichever one you want to choose must be able to provide the necessary information you want. And it must be able to serve the purpose that you want to use them for. So in that market, you have operation and maintenance, you have space management, you have estate management, you have space management. Then there are other software that are also available there that you can pick. But the only factor you have to consider is what is the actual information you want the system software to give you. What are the outputs? What are the data you want to generate? What do you want to use those data for? Then availability of capital. Then I said you can do networking. Get in touch with other facility manager who has one way or the other used that kind of system before. What are their experiences with that system? Does that system actually serve their purpose? Then you also need to consider what are the warranty status from the software provider. Are they giving you after-sales service? Are they giving you after-sales training? These are all what you need to put into consideration before you choose anyone in that market. So, Mr. Innocent.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's clear, sir.
Okay, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
You're much welcome. I think somebody raises hand along the line as well. Yeah, I think when there is somebody. Okay, since we are not having any other question, so that means we can actually call the class. Okay. On chat? Okay. Let me see. Okay, it's you. My contact. You can give them. Okay, just reply the person that you're going to give it to. Okay, thank you, class. Thank you very much for today's class. Please get in touch with Barakat on the assessment. When you need to submit and how and the mode of submitting the assessment.
Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel.
Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel. Thank you.
Hello, sir, Mr. Emmanuel.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Mr. Emmanuel.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Emmanuel, please, are you there?
Someone is trying to say something, Mr. Emmanuel.
Go ahead, I'm still here. Go ahead.
Okay, please, there's a message, there's a chat on the message that might require your attention, please.
Okay. Is there a universal format for assets register? No, there's no. No, there's no any. You can
advise us with any, sir.
You can design your own by yourself. There's no any.
Today.
So it is you design it according to what you actually want to track. But you can see what your asset register should follow in terms of the name of the asset, the make of the asset, serial number, model number, location, warranty status, insurance. These are all what you should consider in your asset register. So there's no any particular universal format. So thank you very much, sir. Everybody have a wonderful night.
Thank you, sir.
Wonderful night.
See you next class.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Bye for now.
All right, thank you.
I don't go off on you.